Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. So I wanted to address the elephant in the room. I've seen quite a few videos which are describing that Yu-Gi-Oh is in great difficulties, and I wanted to clarify my position on this. I'll be breaking this down into different sections. As a disclaimer, I'm not pretending to be an expert on the subject, but I have been around since the beginning of Yu-Gi-Oh and started playing when I picked up the second pack, which was a Metal Raiders pack, and my favourite card out of that, still to this day, is the Thunder Dragon. I got a few other cards in there, including Trent, 7-Up, the Coloured Fish, a couple of other ones, but none of them have any viability. But we'll continue now. So the first aspect is lack of competitive viability. I know this is the first thing you are going to say is, what does that actually mean? Well, with the introduction of some of the stronger cards in the game, for example, Red Eyes Dragoon, Infinite Impermanence, to name a couple, these are very high-priced cards, which means if you are the main audience for Konami, aka children, you rely on your parents to give you the money to spend on them, and at no point are they going to spend over a few £100s for a playset of anything. This means unless you have your own income, which even in these times, with coronavirus is not enough, as you need to settle your priorities, rent, food and travel costs. So unless you are a competitive player, you will not invest in these and will instead try to buy packs, where the odds of getting these cards are also of themselves quite rare. Okay, the second point I have to make is about the format being strange. Yes, it is strange because the coronavirus exists. It means that when Konami decides on creating their ban list, they have nothing really to work with, especially with the newer cards. The only thing they must work with are previous formats and witnessing the first several months where we could understand what was happening with the game state. I mean, you essentially had January, February, and I would argue perhaps mid-March, depending on however they were functioning. This has led to two ban lists where minimal changes have been made. I'm referring to both the OCG. I think this is necessarily a bad thing as they can't foresee what will happen. Perhaps one recommendation would be to create different ban lists and to enable players to play different ban lists depending on their preference or when they used to play. So, for example, going back into some of the oldest versions of ban lists, playing to where they want. The next thing I have to say is about the direction of travel. By this, Yu-Gi-Oh's gone into, I mean that there are at least 3 variations of dueling, and by that standard, do not understand how they are intending to support them when the player base is sticking to the original game. These 3 forms are the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Master Rule 5, as we're going into the major change for. That is, you don't need to run Link's monsters now. In your extra deck, you can summon the other extra deck monsters more freely. The other formats are the speed duels, where you have quicker duels in place. Each player starts off with 4,000 life points, a starting hand of 4 cards. The main deck is capped at between 20 and 30 cards. You have room for 5 extra deck cards. You can have a skill card. The zones are limited to 3 monsters, and the same applies with spell or trap cards, and you don't receive a main phase 2. This format has had a few structure decks made, but not so much as regular packs. I've heard from other players that when they visited local tournament stores that no one was interested in playing them. Konami needs to promote this format for its ease of use. This could be a great way to get younger players into the game, and should treat that as a starting point to make the game as exciting as possible. The final version is Rush Duels. This works similar to Speed Duels, where you have the same number of zones, but you can normal summon as many times as you want, with the cards in your hand. You start with 4 cards in hand. You draw cards per turn to fill your hand to a maximum size of 5. So if you have 2 cards in your hand, you will draw 3 cards. There is no limit to your hand size. If the player draws cards which deck them out, then they will lose. This is the newest format to appear. The new cards have a different and larger picture to it, and a different art style. The game is intended to be very simple and would work, but I think with as many different types of the game coming out, Konami needs to make clarifications on the formats and create the needed promotional material. And the last aspect I have to think of is that age is a very big number. Age is definitely a problem with this game. The intended audience is meant to be kids, but many of the player base are in their early 20s. Imagine situations where they have players of vastly different ages dueling each other. I know Konami has introduced tournament play with, I think they call them Dragon tournaments, where these are meant for under 13s, but there isn't anything separating beyond this. I think it would be a good idea to balance this by having a 13 to 18 bracket and then an over 18 bracket, and also they should have a section for casual and competitive play to let the players suit against their opponents. What do you think needs to be changed to bring Yu-Gi-Oh! Back to the masses? Is there anything you agree with me about, and what do you not agree with? Whatever you think, leave your comments down below, like the video if you enjoyed it, and please make sure to subscribe. It really helps out the channel.